This is just after my first major book came out, World's Best Known Marketing Secret. So it was, late 1994, early 1995, and I was asked to do this live interview on a really big station on the East Coast of the United States called the Fairfield County Exchange, one of the largest television shows back then. And so I got invited to do this live interview, and I said, yeah, sure, I'd be happy to do it. And she said, no, Ivan, I want to make sure you understand this is a live television interview. Live. There are a couple million people watching the show, and you're on live. I said, yeah, okay, I get it. She said, so whatever you say will go out on the air. So this has got to be, you got to feel comfortable with that. It was like, well, I was comfortable a few minutes ago. I'm now, a little nervous. She said, okay, well, if you feel like you can do it, then I'm going to book it. I said, yeah, fine, that's okay. Book it. And she said, oh, wait, there is one other thing. One other thing. I said, what? She said, you got to do something visual. I said, visual? What do I do that's visual? I said, I talk about networking. What do I do? Run up and down the aisles and network? Hand out my cards? She said, look, I don't know what to do. You're the expert. Come up with something that's visual. And so I said, wow, I don't know what I'm going to do. I gave it some thought, and I figured I came up with this really stupid idea. Honestly, it was a really stupid idea. Is to do the tools for networking. So I went out and I bought a toolbox. My wife was like really excited. Oh my God, you've never had a toolbox. You have a toolbox. So I took this toolbox and instead of having tools in it, I put the tools to network in it. A badge, a business card holder, business cards, all of the things necessary to be effective at networking. So I was going to open this up. That was my visual thing. I was going to open this up and show the tools to network, but I didn't like it. I felt that it was just kind of silly, right? Not that impressive. And so I needed to come up with something else. And I thought, well, I know a little bit of magic. I'm a member of the Magic Castle in Southern California. Maybe I'll do a magic trick. And so I asked the B&I director who was driving me, I said, what do you think if I do a little magic trick? And he said, well, I don't know. What do you have in mind? I said, well, here's what I'm thinking. Well, look, what we'll do is we'll get to the end of the interview. And when we're at the end of the interview, I'm going to ask the host to hold up a copy of the book. And when she holds up a copy of the book, I'm going to say, oh, careful. And she'll say, oh, why is that? And I'll open the book and I'll say, because that's hot. And now I'll do this little magic trick. And he said, yeah, that's visual. Do that. You should do that. I said, okay, that's what I'll do. So we got to the station, and I'm sitting in what's called the green room, which is where you wait to do the interviews. And this is a big show, and there were lots and lots of people, and we're all sitting there. We're watching the show live on television, and we noticed people walking by the door. One was dressed as a Native American, and one was dressed as a police officer, and the one was dressed as a sailor. And someone in the room said, wow, that kind of looks like the Village People. Now, the Village People, they did the song YMCA, right? You remember that? Remember, nodding is the universal sign of recognition? Yeah, okay. So we all laughed. Like, right, yeah, right, the Village People are going to be here. And I'm a little nervous because everybody's out there. They're doing great stuff and very, very visual. And I thought, man, I better do a good job. This is my first live interview. So when you have that, you have what's called flash paper, which is like cotton. And if you put more in, you get a bigger flash. So I thought, this has got to be good. I'm gonna put just a little bit more flash paper in there so it's big. And so I'm sitting there, I'm watching the show now. They get on the intercom. They're going to go to commercial, and the announcer says, ladies and gentlemen, next on the Fairfield County Exchange, the Village People, and Dr. Ivan Misner to talk about networking. Can you give me one click? This is what the Village People look like, by the way. So that's the Village People. Let's see. Yeah, so the Village People are going to come on out, and then Dr. Ivan Misner is going to come out and talk about networking. And I'm thinking, are you kidding me? I go on after the Village People. After the Village People, I go on. I'm going to put just a little bit more of that stuff in there just to make sure that this is good. And so I watch as the Village People come out, and man, they're incredible. They're fun. They get the entire audience on their feet. Everybody's up and dancing and singing. And I'm thinking, oh man, I'm on next after this. I'm going to put just a little bit more of that stuff in there. And so I watch as they finish up. Of course, what's the last song? It's got to be YMCA. Really visual. Cameras turn out. There's the entire audience. They're all on their feet. They're all doing the YMCA thing, right? Yeah. And everybody's singing and dancing. And I'm thinking, oh, this is going to be so bad. I'm like up next to talk about networking, and I got the toolbox. And so I'm going to put just a little bit more of that stuff in there. They finished, and they're running a little over time, and the producer comes in and says, Misner, who's Misner? I said, that's me. He said, all right, we're on late. The Village people went late, so we need to get you in there really quick, and we're going to have a microphone put up on the back of your coat, and through your coat, and you can talk to the host for just a minute or two, and then we're going to go on live in just a few minutes. So are you ready? I said, yeah, hang on just a second. A little bit more. So we get on out there, and I sit down, and sure enough, there's this guy, big burly guy, he's got his hand on my coat, and I'm trying to have this conversation with the host and the co-host, and they told me that the woman's going to do the interview, and I didn't want to scare her, so I said, look, would you mind, when we get to the end of the interview, what I want you to do is I want you to just hold up a copy of my book. Okay? I want you to hold up a copy of my book. And then I'm going to say, careful, and just as I get to that moment, the director comes on over and says, no, you two, I don't want her holding up a copy of the book. We're going to put a copy of the book up on screen. I don't want her to hold it up. It's too much of the book thing. You can't do it. And she walked away. Now you can see all the blood drain from my face because I knew I had a lousy interview, except this was my end. This is all I had that was really good. And you can see the blood drain from my face. So the host, the woman, she saw that and she said, I'm the host. What do you want to do? We'll do it. I said, oh, thank you so much. Okay, look. So when you get to the very end, what I'd like you to do is to hold up a copy of the book. And when you hold up a copy of the book, I'm going to say, and I get to the same part, and the guy's finished with the microphone. Now the director is listening to us conspire against her, and the director hears that. I get to the same point right before I tell her what I'm going to do, and the director walks up and says, hey, you two, I told you cannot do that. I don't want you to do it. And you're on in 4, 3, 2. So the woman looks at me, she said, don't worry about it. I'll just go with it. I said, okay, fine. I do this whole interview. It's kind of lame. I got the toolbox. Not going real well. But I get to the very end where I know I have a big finish. And she, being the consummate professional she is, she holds up a copy of my book and she says, I have here a copy of Dr. Misner's book. The director's looking at her and going, oh, I can't believe this. I said, oh, be careful. She said, careful? Why is that? And I opened it up and I went, and I maybe put a little too much stuff in there because it went whoosh. And she went, ah! And jumped into the lap of her co-host. She is now lying in the lap of her co-host going, ah! I'm standing up and I'm going like this. I didn't realize this, but when there's a big flash like that, the cameramen are blinded. They're blinded. So there are 3 cameramen. They're all walking around the room like this. Nobody's on the cameras. The director's in the back like this, right? The only thing this woman could say at this point, the only thing she could say, well, we're still on live television. The only thing she could say, she's holding her chest and she's going, oh, thank God I didn't swear on live television. Her co-host, who has said nothing throughout the entire interview, he has said nothing at all, says his first words. He looks at her, he looks off stage, and he says, wardrobe, new trousers for her, please. Director says, go to commercial. My B&I director is off on the side going, that was visual. But we should leave now. So in most states, in the United States, I'm considered an expert on networking. In Connecticut, I'm considered an arsonist. Look, we all make mistakes in business and in life. You can't define yourself by your mistakes. You have to define yourself by your successes in life. And so we're gonna all make mistakes. Hopefully yours aren't on live television. I am just happy that happened in an age before YouTube. And so it doesn't exist. But we all make mistakes. you still have to practice. If you practice these things that I've talked about here today, you will be successful at building a powerful personal network. So I got a few minutes where I can open it up and take questions that you have. I don't have a lot of time, probably take 3 or 4 questions at the most. The only dumb question is the unasked question. There is a microphone that hopefully somebody will turn on, right? There is a microphone there, right? And so if you've got a question, what I'd love you to do is go on up to the microphone and throw that question out. Be brave. So here's what happens. Everybody waits, and then when they decide to do it, there's like 10 people, and I can only do 2 or 3, maybe 4. So the first 3 or 4 are in.
Hello.
Does the mic work? Okay.
Good evening, doctor. My name is Pramod Malu, and I run a company by the name Creative Machines. My question to you is, given the name, fame, and stature that you have, chances are that you must be getting 3, 4, 5, new business ideas from somebody that you meet every time.
Yeah.
So how do you go about filtering which one to, even think forward and which one to just put aside? And if at all, does that, given the fact that you run a company, BNI, world's biggest, largest networking company,
Yeah.
do you get attracted to get into other businesses that you get to know from, other members, other people that you meet?
No. I don't.
And if no, how do you go about this? Because, given the fact that even we get to know so many new business ideas when we are running our businesses, sometimes we get attracted.
In the past, there have been other businesses that I have started, but let me explain what I've done and why. BNI is not the only company I've started. Most of the businesses that I have had historically vertically integrate into BNI. That is, they provide a product or service that I can use in BNI. For example, I started a publishing business to publish books. And they do now most, not all of my books, but they do most of my books. And so, the only businesses I've gone into have been businesses that really vertically integrate. People do throw business ideas at me, and I have in the past invested in other businesses. I have a perfect, absolutely perfect track record of success in those businesses. They have all failed. And so I learned to do businesses that I understand, I know, that vertically integrate into my business with one. Well, at the time it wasn't an exception. Real estate. I've been investing in real estate since I was 24 years old, maybe 25. And so I have acquired a lot of real estate over the years. But I've even for many, many years, the BNI headquarters rented from my property management company. So I bought the real estate and rented it to my company. So what businesses I have done have been vertically integrated. I really don't look to do new businesses. I look to improve BNI and make it the best in the world. And that's full time.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Whether you have any thoughts of doing something which is special for BNI India.
Run that. You say they do 1 or 2 things that are what?
So global organizations, globally successful organizations, when they come to India, because India is very different, they do change their strategy. They do take 1 or 2 different strategies.
Yeah.
Do you have anything in mind, or you think that the proven long-term strategies of BNI will also work in India?
So here's my answer to that. If people tend to focus on the differences between cultures. And I find that most business people, when they're doing business with someone in another culture, what they observe is everything that's different as opposed to everything that's similar. And I would argue that there are way, way, way more similarities than dissimilarities from culture to culture. And that what we have tried to do in BNI is to focus on the similarities. Yeah, there are different cultures, and people translate things. Man, translations are incredible. I mean, in Sweden they don't have word of mouth. There is no phrase for word of mouth. In Sweden they translate it to mouth to mouth. So a lot of people wanting to do referral business in Sweden. Hey, I want to do some mouth-to-mouth business with you. So we tend to focus on the things that are different, not the things that are the same. So in BNI, we wanted to focus on the things that are the same because you have to understand to begin with, the core element of BNI is people doing business locally. Now, as they do business locally, they can expand it. But from the beginning, what you have are people in India doing business with local people in India. And so you have people in America doing business with local people in America. And the longer they do this and feel comfortable with it, then they can expand outside that. What we've done is we've taken a program that operates within the cultural context, not outside the cultural context, and we put an overlay on top of it of a system that applies to entrepreneurs worldwide. There is a culture that people don't think about, and that's the culture of entrepreneurism. There is no country in the world where trust is not important to entrepreneurs. And so that transcends our cultural differences. You've probably all heard me say different people, different places, different races, different religions, different countries, different cultures. We all speak the language of referrals. And so there is very little that we intend to change from one country to another country. There have been some things. You go to a chapter in the US, and they don't, start the morning with, namaste. What do? They'll say hello. They'll shake hands. So, I mean, there are cultural differences already that we've incorporated. You go to Australia and they start the meeting with "Good day, mate." So you allow that kind of cultural difference to take place, but the core 20-point agenda is the same in every country around the world, and we don't plan on changing that.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks. Any other question? Yeah.
So I'm Manoj Saraf, past president of BNI Prudent. My question is about visitors. And just drawing a few observations from your presentation today, you kept saying, do not sell, don't oversell. Now, what happens in a typical meeting, the script that the president reads week after week? I think we are trying to oversell BNI to the visitors. Your comments on that?
I don't know what script you're talking about. I don't know of any script that we tell presidents to read. There's a script that we ask secretary treasurers to read, but there shouldn't be a script that a president is reading.
I'm talking about the overall script, which is divided between the president, the vice president, and the secretary treasurer, where we do address the visitors 3 or 4 times during the meeting. Do you think we are trying to oversell BNI to them? And my second question in this...
I don't, and I'd like you to tell me the sentence that's used that you feel is trying to sell to them.
So because...
Listen to my question. Tell me exactly the phrase that's used that you think is overselling.
No, when we mentioned to them at the start of the meeting that the category may close, the category may be closed down to you very, very easily, so you should block your category.
So that's not a required statement in any script I've ever seen. It's not required. It is something that we train on, and it's certainly something that I think is, particularly on Visitors' Days, is good to know. But why? Because if they don't sign up before someone else does, then they have no chance of being in. I'll give you an example. I did a kickoff once, and there were 2 real estate agents that showed up, 2. And it was so funny because I went to them and I said, so, either of you plan on submitting an application? And the 2 of them looked at each other, and they were friendly competitors. They knew each other. And they looked at each other and go, I don't know. I'm not sure. You plan on joining up? And the other guy said, I don't know. I think I'm going to think about it. I'll think about it and get back to you. And the other guy said, okay, I think I'll think about it too. And I'm standing right there. So the first guy says, well, I'm going to take off. That guy didn't even pass the threshold of the door. And the second guy goes, yeah, I thought about it. I'm signing up. And he joined. So is it high pressure to say, look, this is done by classification, and we open classifications once it's filled, is not high sales to me. So no, the short answer is I don't see a problem with that. Okay, what else? And then I got to wrap it up.
Good evening, sir. So I'm a member in Prudent chapter, and I'm a member since last 2.5 years. The day I joined BNI, I forgot the word competition, and there was a word called compliment. So any of the members joining, we don't take it as a competition, we always take it as a compliment. So how can we make it more like we can feel that people are still like, yeah, he's a competition to me, he's a competition to me. So how can we make them feel that it's not a competition? We are complimenting each other in one or the other way.
I have no idea what you're referring to.
So what he's trying to ask is, after joining BNI, he has understood that by giving referrals to each other, we are trying to complete each other. We are adding
You're
a
trying to compete with each other?
complete each other by
Complete
giving more referrals. He is
Got
no
it.
more taking it as a competition. But there are still few members, when there are new members who are trying to get into the chapter, they think that new member might be a competition to them.
Okay.
How can we convince those members?
So the one thing is, they don't get to pick. It's up to the membership committee. So you've got to have strong membership committees. That membership committee should listen